Hey YouTube family, Sophie here. I am coming to you today with the first of 12 videos which will be released on this channel every Wednesday. And the theme that I'm going to take you guys through is a quest, an adventure of shifting from discouraged to willing. When I'm talking about discouraged to willing, this is in any area of life for sure. But based on the skill sets that I have in my own life experience, we're going to be focusing primarily on discourage within the area of creative expression, right? Creativity, how that feeds into a sense of purpose and how we can transmute it into a state of willingness. Willingness has come up previously when speaking about inspiration, like a key cornerstone necessity that will allow for inspiration to come into your life is first and primarily a willingness, an openness to experience inspiration, for example, or to feel encouraged, or willingness to try the thing, or willingness to fail, willingness to say what you really want to say at risk of being rejected, right? So discourage is obviously a huge theme. And if we look at the Hawkins scale of consciousness, discouragement is most close to apathy, and that is resting at about 50. Apathy is more related to hopelessness, right? And then willingness is residing within the realm of hopeful, which is at 310. So it's not that huge of a jump compared to, I'm going to take you from 50 to 1,000, baby. Like, yeah, for sure, we're totally going to get there at some point. But in this 12 weeks, it's really about this doable jump from 50 to 310, from discouraged to willing. So that's what this 12-week journey is going to be revolving around, let's say. So super exciting. I love things that are really themed, and it's going to really unfold in a beautiful way. So if you're joining for this journey, well, stay tuned. We're going to have fun. Just a little bit of admin, let's say, just to give you a lowdown on what actually we're going to be covering. So in this 12-week journey, as I said, we're going to be shifting from discourage to willing. And that's going to be over 12 weeks, aka 3 sets of 4 videos. So in the first set of the 4 videos, we're going to be talking about the phases of discouragement and willingness within how to show up for yourself, answering the call to adventure, okay? And then the second round of 4 videos, we're going to be speaking more about entering the dark woods with self-inquiry. And the dark woods, not in a scary, freaky kind of way, but the dark woods of embracing the mystery, right? The unknown. And in the third round of the 4 videos, we're going to be talking about resolving discouragement and realizing willingness. So kind of wrapping it all together and anchoring it in with the tangible, actionable steps, right? So what you can look for are for sure the videos here on this channel every Wednesday. You can also stay tuned and stay connected to my Instagram space, where I'm going to be posting some super useful, inspirational and educational content to supplement what we're speaking about here, taking a sort of different lens, or focusing on something a bit more specific, right? So it's going to be building our foundation. Every month, I'm also going to be offering a masterclass at the end of the 4 weeks, right? And the masterclass is going to bring the juice that we cover in these 4 weeks together in a nice sort of real-time, interactive space. So really excited to offer that. And that's going to happen 3 times because we're doing it over 3 months, essentially, with the 12 weeks. You will also find on my online store a artwork at the end of each of the months. So there'll be 3 artworks in total. And these artworks will also be magically imbued so that you have a visual anchor to hone in on what we've been speaking about, something that you can put on your altar, something really that you can form a relationship with to continue working through this process of shifting discouragement to willingness. And then at the very end of the 12 weeks, I'm going to do a masterclass, let's say, a mini course where you will get a supplementary deep dive as part of that offering. So, yay! Are you excited? I'm excited. What I wanted to share as well is that a plant friend that's going to be woven into this 12 weeks that I'm personally going to be working with is calendula. And I'm not necessarily going to be teaching anything or talking about anything with this, because this is more of a personal practice at this stage. Though I did want to share that with you because perhaps you feel inspired to work with a particular plant friend, plant ally, during these 12 weeks as well, that you want to form a relationship with to assist you in disentangling from discouragement, feeling discouraged, and accessing willingness and what that means for you. And perhaps you already have a relationship with a plant that that feels really good for. Even it could be a crystal, right? Animistically, it's in the spirit of relationship, it's sort of whatever feels good for you. So with that said, let's hop in. So we are in the first of 12, as I said, and in this video, we're going to be talking about discouragement in creativity. This is huge. Discouragement specifically is something that I've faced quite a lot. This comes from, for sure, perfectionistic wounding, for sure, many things that are beyond the realm of creativity, but that feed into it and my relationship to it. Though discouragement in the last few years at least has been hitting me again and again. This creating something or it not turning out the way that I wanted, or feeling like my goals are super huge and I just don't know where to start, or not even knowing what my goals are at some points and feeling discouraged in comparison land. So if you can relate to that, this series is going to be perfect for you. And I truly hope, and my intention is, that it is going to be something that you can refer to, that will really assist you and feeling that you are not alone, and you really aren't. And may we all remember that, because so often, at least for myself, so often I feel that I'm the exception and everyone else has got it figured out and everyone else is super courageous. And it's just not the case. So with that said, I want to first contextualize this a little bit by actually defining what discouragement is. So if you've seen some of my previous videos, you know that I really like etymology. I love getting into the roots of things. So the word discourage is coming from the old French verb. Forgive my pronunciation if it's wrong. I'm a little bit rusty on the French. I've been in Spanish land. Discourager, which translates to dishearten, and a modern French verb that translates, when we dissect it, décourager, into de, which is away, and courager, which is from the word courage, which means spirit. So it's away from spirit, a separation from spirit, a separation from heart is another translation of that. And so when we're speaking about discouragement, we're speaking about a separation from the heart, which totally makes sense, right? If you have felt discouraged in your life, there's been a massive separation from a sense of love and presence, and the sense that things are meaningless and that they're empty shells and they feel bland, or that there's not an animating spark in it, right? And so instantly then we're speaking about the heart. And the heart is one of the three main cauldrons of the physical and metaphysical being, right? You have your lower cauldron, which is around your lower abdomen. Then you have the middle cauldron, which is the heart, right? And the upper cauldron. So here, right, this space is holding so much. We can speak of it as the middle point, the middle ground between heaven and earth, spirit and matter. When we speak about it within the framing of dantians, this being the middle dantian, then this is the seat for chi, which is life force, which is the animating divine spark, right? That gives life to all the other things. And so this is huge. This is totally, totally huge. Don't underestimate the influence of feeling discouraged in your life and how it affects all the other systems. Like if we just purely think about it from that perspective of this cauldron animating all the other cauldrons, then this being out of balance is affecting your life, right? It's a holistic, interrelated system. And so for sure it's helpful to speak of it in an isolated way, because you can't fully move through the thing if you don't know what you're moving through, right? That classic quote of, you can't escape from the prison if you don't even know you're in the prison. So with that said, may this be an invitation right here and right now for you to tune in to your heart, to this cauldron that holds the animating life force for your entire system, to ground that into something really tangible. If you have no legs and no arms, you will still be alive. Even if you get your bowel removed from your body, you can still live, right? If we think of it within the cauldrons, even parts of your brain, if they don't work, you can still live. But as soon as your heart is out of the picture, nothing. Done. That's why this is so important. So together, let's just tune in for just a moment and bring awareness to what's actually happening here and now in your heart. Just close your eyes, sit in a comfortable position where you feel able to drop in. And first, take a deep breath, filling your belly first and then raising the air to the chest. And then exhaling with a sigh outward. Doing that 2 more times. And 1 more time. Keeping your eyes closed. Bring your awareness to your heart, and without needing to pull out something, simply observe. Just notice. Notice if you feel a contraction, an oppression of the chest, if it feels squeezed, or perhaps it feels quite open, or perhaps it feels quite numb. I'm going to give you just a moment of silence to attune to this, to notice this, without trying to change it. Just notice. I'll tell you when to come out. Good. When you're ready, just slowly open your eyes and bring your awareness fully into your body. 20% to the bottom of your feet, 40% to your lower cauldron, your lower dantian, your root, let's say. And then the rest, trust that it's exactly where it needs to be. So, what did you notice? Did you notice anything? Did you find it hard to tune in? Did you not want to? You know that you can, but you don't want to. Did you notice that without judgment? Did you notice that you judged? without judging the judgments or trying to critique what you did notice or didn't. Just notice what you noticed and write that down if you feel that's going to be useful for you. It will be helpful to tune in at the end of these 12 weeks and notice what shifted. So make note of that if that feels supportive for you. Discouragement is huge, as I've alluded to. It's an imbalance in the heart, an imbalance of the spirit. It resides in the realms of apathy, right? Where you don't feel any urge to do anything. There's no drive, no motivation, no inspiration necessarily. A state of hopelessness. You know, there are always reasons that we end up in these situations, and oftentimes the very thing that is providing this depth of challenge is the thing that's going to ultimately be the catalyst for what sets us free. So that's why this first segment of these 12 weeks, these first 4, is held within the theme of showing up for yourself and answering the call to the adventure, right? Because you don't have to answer the call. In the classic hero's journey that Joseph Campbell describes based on his own research and noticing and observing of the underlying themes throughout mythologies around the world, the first step is to answer the call, and then begins the journey. Then begins the hero's journey. So even you watching this video is answering the call, and you answering the call even more would be to continue throughout the 12 weeks, where we then enter into the dark woods, enter into a phase of trusting the mystery and being open to see what comes through. So what we're really speaking about is an affliction of the heart. It's a block in the inner cauldron, let's say, which is therefore fragmenting the stream of divine will, the stream of inspiration, of encouragement, of courage, whatever it might be, that comes through, and then here it gets fragmented, it gets blocked, and it can't continue down into the lower cauldron, through which vision is then birthed into reality. So on a personal note, I really realized that I would continually make towers out of cards without even a solid foundation. Like let's say the foundation was out of sand and I was making a tower out of cards. And so that doesn't sound like it's going to last, does it? No, that's because it doesn't. The tower inevitably falls. I tried to skip the steps 2 to 99 and just wanted to go from 1 to 100, which is, of course, when I speak it out like that, it sounds completely unrealistic, and that's because it is. And as I shared before, that comes from perfectionistic wounding, the golden child, external motivation, like my worth is based on how quick I can achieve the thing, how well, wanting to create the masterpiece without having had the backdrop necessarily. And, you know, I'm not undermining in saying this what I have built and what I have learned and the foundation that I've created for myself, which of course is going to continue growing. But previously it would just be Tower of Cards falling, Tower of Cards falling, and very much having to surrender to the dark woods, to the unknown, and seeing the threshold guardians, which were my own inner demons, which were these wounds that would leak through and self-sabotage. So this is essentially what I'm inviting when I'm asking you to really show up for yourself, you know, to answer the call. That call being maybe a call from your higher self being like, yo, we got some issues and we want you to look at it. And without this realization, how's there going to be progress? So really this video is an introduction primarily into the following 11 videos that we're going to do, and situating this within first the realm of creativity. To reinstate, like, creativity, we can compartmentalize that as one life area, but when we're speaking about creativity, we are speaking about every single life area. Inherent in creativity is, of course, creation, is, of course, creative energy. And we exist within capital C creation, created by capital C creator. And so let's say we are masterpieces. We are the artworks, so to speak, of the creator. And so us, as the microfractal of the macro, we are still co-creators of our own life. We are still creator gods of our own life, creating the thing. And so how we treat our creation mirrors how we are, let's say, asking to be treated by life. You know, that's the threads we're putting out there of, this is what I want to receive. And creativity, creative energy, is inherently life force energy. It is the capacity for you to receive that stream of divine influence, of divine will, of inspiration, of animacy, and how that can move through your system without blockages. Creative energy is healing energy. Creative energy is sexual energy. When we speak about discouragement and creativity, yes, of course, this ties into how able you are to face that blank canvas and not allow the projections of how it's going to be received or what it should look like or how good it's going to be compared to someone else or where you want to be, without accepting where you are now. This is key. To embark on the quest of shifting from discouraged to willing, you first need to know, where are you now? What are the colors, let's say, of your color palette that you have access to right now? Are those colors mixed and mashed all into brown and it just looks like you have one color? Or do you notice that, yeah, you've got some strengths here that can support you, but for sure you've got some weaknesses here? To reinstate what I shared before, my so-called weakness was wanting to get to 100 without having gone through the dark woods, without having gone through the necessary learnings and failures and successes along the path, like wanting to hyperfixate on the destination itself rather than the journey. The journey, animistically, is also a being. We are relating with the journey as if it is a person, as if it is its own entity, its own essence that can communicate with us. So the invitation throughout these 12 weeks together is to treat this journey as if it was the thing itself, as if it was the destination. And from that, you're going to receive the gifts of what it means to not place all the emphasis on the end goal and rather address what is present and alive here and now, so that the affliction of the heart can resolve, the dense ball can unravel, and the flow of energy can move through your system harmoniously, abundantly, so that vision can travel through and turn into matter, so that your ideas can take form and not allow you to feel even more discouraged in the self-perpetuating spiral of so many visions, no self-actualization. If you watched the video in which I spoke about the quest in questioning and the art of inquiry, I shared with you how when we're speaking of courage, which is connected to discouragement, obviously, we're speaking about fear. They're not separable necessarily. And so there's this beautiful way that the universe teaches us. It's like it teaches us through opposition, through the opposites. I'm sure you've experienced it where you're really focused, let's say, on building your confidence. It's like, okay, universe, I'm here, I'm ready to be confident. I'm here to be confident. And then what happens? You are given situations, you're put in a context in which your capacity to be confident is challenged. You are seemingly less confident. You are, let's say for me, I remember when I was in year, 6 or 7, I had been practicing, it was year 6. I'd been practicing and practicing for this singing performance as part of my music class. When it came to singing this song, there were high notes that I totally aced in the practicing. And when it came to the performance, the voice cracked and I felt contracted. And that for me, oh my goodness, this was a massive discouragement. I didn't sing in front of people for years. It took me ages to recover from that. But once I did actually sing in front of an audience again, yeah, it was great for sure. There were nerves, though I had certainly cultivated a willingness to do that, primarily because I loved it. And I'd recognized that that wasn't a reason to not do the thing. The necessity to embrace so-called failure became apparent, and I was like, I will not let this define me or how I show up. So that was really funny. But this kind of segues into how I want to share a little bit more about examples of discouragement within creativity. So I've spoken about how this can manifest as blocks, right? Like feeling creatively blocked. This one's pretty straightforward, and I've mentioned before how my perception of artist block is largely largely that your system needs a release. It needs an outpouring so that there is space in your being for new, fresh energy to come through. And that outpouring can simply be in conscious exhaling with It can be through movement. It can be through conscious shaking. It can be through singing. It can be through running and sprinting and for sure scribbling on a piece of paper. Stream of consciousness journaling. Like there are a gazillion ways that outpouring can take place. So that's for sure one manifestation of discouragement within creativity, which feeds into self-doubt. This is pretty self-explanatory as well, like where there's a projecting of judgment or rejection that will be received, that you will receive from the external world based on what you put out in the world. And so this, of course, leads into a lack of creativity, but challenges the courage, right? As I've mentioned previously, perfectionism, that's a big one. Essentially, the setting of impossibly high standards, which are basically just recipes to feed the inner critic. And I will actually make a side note on that. The inner critic is a really interesting energy that exists within the household of who we are. And I want to invite you to pay attention to how the inner critic shows up for you. What is the voice of the inner critic or the voices of the inner critic, and are you able to perceive when it is the inner critic or the outward critic? So the inner critic is when it is self-inflicted judgment. You are projecting that and directing that towards yourself, which perpetuates this spiral of discouragement and not feeling confident to show up and comparing yourself with everyone and feeling you're in a competition and being hypercritical, which are all subsequent examples of discouragement in creativity for sure. On the flip side, the outward critic is the version of the critic which then projects that judgment outside, projecting distrust in the other, projecting that they are the cruel one who will judge you, projecting that they're not cool, they're not talented. Basically, instead of that being the voice telling you that you're not cool, that you're not talented, it gets projected outside. This is probably something that I can weave in a little bit more in depth in our subsequent videos, because the inner critic and the outward critic are massive components to why discouragement stays in our system and blocks that capacity to allow energy to flow through and allow the vision to anchor into reality. Allow yourself to live your destiny. All of this ties into a lack of motivation, a lack of inspiration. Many of the things that I've already shared in previous videos just perfectly tie into this meta theme of discouragement to willingness, which is convenient and beautiful. It always flows on. The key point here is what I've shared as these manifestations of discouragement. Don't demonize them, because, if we do largely learn through opposition, if we want to learn courage, we get challenged with fear. If we want to learn love, we get challenged with indifference and numbness, let's say. So actually, a nice reframe is that these very things which have been feeding into discouragement via the blocks, via the perfectionism, via the comparison, that's the universe giving you the juice, the situation, the nuggets of wisdom, of experience, in order for you to learn that lesson. That's like the raw matter that you get to work with in order to transmute it into willingness in this context. The willingness to show up, to create, however you are creating, be it in voice, song, music, floristry, anything, really. It's really anything. When we speak of creativity, at least for me, there's an association with a flow state. My vision of a creative state is one in which there's energy flowing and moving. There's a wildness to it in some sense, but for sure an openness, for sure a willingness. Doesn't necessarily mean that that willingness is accompanied by an ecstatic bliss state all the time, though for sure a willingness to show up, and the focus is less inward and more outward on the process of creation, the process of creating. Really, the difference between this flow state and stuckness of discouragement, let's say, is where your focus is. If your focus is on how discouraged you feel and how crap of a human you are compared to X, Y, and Z, and how they are doing so much better than you, and you are a fraud, imposter syndrome waving its hand at you, and basically where attention goes, energy follows, right? So if all your attention is going to that, then you will be given more nuggets of justification to validate that stance that you're holding. If we want to access the flow state, which is going hand in hand with a creative state, then you need to be aware of where your focus is. You need to change your internal narrative, which is what one of my teachers says. And so the narrative could be literally shifting from, oh my God, what do I do? Oh my God, it's not looking good. Oh my God, what if people hate it? To, I want whoever looks at this to feel the love that I have for them by looking at this. Or I'm doing this to bring more love into my life, or I'm creating this to open the hearts and minds of the people who witness this creation. So that focus has shifted from, how does the thing look? How is it going to be received? Oh my God, am I going to get judged? Oh my God, am I judging myself? To, why am I doing this? Oh, I'm doing this because for sure there's some energy that I want to move through my system, or I want to bring more love into my life. I want to, I want this to be an offering of beauty into this world. And for sure, I'm creating this to open the hearts and minds of those who witness it. Whoa, suddenly there's a higher holding. There's something that feels way more like substantial that's feeding into it. And it does become more of a service and more of a sharing of your gifts rather than exactly how is it going to be received, and all of its value and the worth of that process is purely based on those extrinsic external metrics. This is super key. And when we're speaking about creativity, we're speaking about the creation. And it's easy to get lost in the creation, the thing, as being where its entire value is. Returning to what I said previously, if the journey, the path, is also a thing, then that is just as valuable, if not more valuable, than the so-called end product. Tying it back to what I said previously about how discouragement is largely an affliction of the heart, a blockage in the heart, which is tied into fear, and for sure the other lessons of the heart, which is tied to grief, right? Then this accumulation of unprocessed energy, or even an accumulation of fear, of anxiety, this actually freezes the energy in your system. From an TCM perspective, fear freezes chi, and chi being the life force, and the heart being the seat of chi. Many connection points here, which ties in again to how a massive factor that will assist you in allowing there to be movement, to oppose the stagnancy, the stuckness, the freezing of the life force moving through your system, is movement. Movement, as I've shared previously, through writing, through singing, through breathing, through yoga, through qigong, through sprinting up a hill, through weight training, through allowing yourself to be with that grief, summon those tears that you didn't cry and you haven't cried. Summon the disappointment, summon the anger in a contained way, and so that it has the capacity to be released, which goes hand in hand with how much space there is in your being for fresh energy to come in, resolving the blocks, the creative blocks, resolving the lack of inspiration, right? Super interconnected here. Here's an example of how to kind of ground this in. If you dig 20 shallow holes, you're kind of not really allowing yourself to move through the inevitable wriggles of resistance and self-doubt, and am I digging the hole in the right spot? Will this reach water, which is what I'm looking for? Oh God, maybe it's the wrong hole. Oh my God, squeezing through the birth canal. Oh, okay. Your commitment led to the water, which is what you get if you don't just continue digging shallow hole after shallow hole after shallow hole, and you commit to one hole and you keep digging it until you reach the water. Discouragement feeds into this wriggling irritation of the system, which doesn't want to focus on the thing, which is constantly self-doubting and thinking that they need to change track because, oh no, that's wrong. Oh no, that's wrong. Oh, this is better. Oh, that's better. But that fragmentation feeds the discouragement because you don't reach the water. And that's not saying that you've got to dig the one hole and only the one hole for the rest of your life, though there is a skill and an art to being able to attune to that channel, dig that hole, and keep going even when the wriggles of self-doubt, of perfectionism, of whatever the manifestation of discouragement is. And trust, this is the key to cultivating the trust that you will move through it and you will access the water and that you will awaken to a different flow state within, which can manifest without. This doesn't come if you give up so fast. And it's tricky because when we feel discouraged, we don't really feel like committing to the thing because we've been hurt before and it hasn't worked before, and what if this doesn't work again, and what if everyone hates it and doesn't tell me, or what if people are talking about me behind my back, and the affliction of the heart, right? It's being able to hold the tension of that's going to be there so long as we're in that discouraged energy state, but that's not a reason to stop. Like when you are, let's say, you go to the gym because you want to get stronger. Okay, well, inevitably, as you've made that commitment internally and maybe externally, you've told some friends that's what you're doing, or some are coming along with you, you're going to reach a resistance threshold. You're going to reach a barrier through which you have the choice to surpass or not. That barrier doesn't mean that you shouldn't go to the gym and fulfill this goal of getting stronger. It doesn't mean that the pain that you experience getting stronger, pumping those weights, doing the spin classes, whatever you do at the gym, is inherently wrong and shouldn't be there. So it's very similar when we're speaking about discouragement to willingness. Along the path from state A, let's say, of discouragement to state B of willingness are the growing pains, are the sore muscles because you've been going to the gym 4 times a week, whatever it is. And you learn to adapt to that. You learn to modulate yourself, temper yourself so that being there doesn't fully sweep you off your path and distract you and dishearten you from what you're here to do. If anything, this is the power of that focus shift, the perspectival shift, where you go from, if it doesn't feel good, it means it's not right. Or if I don't get it in the first go, it means I'm not good at this. This is a manifestation of the forms and the symptoms of discouragement, and certainly the perfectionist in those examples I just gave there. So be okay with them being there. Notice them, know them, and then learn to let them go. And you'll recognize that as you keep going along the path, new ones will come up, and you've got to notice them, know them, and let them go. In the second part of this 12-week journey, in the second month, that's going to be more focused on entering the dark woods, cultivating the capacity to contemplate and self-inquire, so that you'll be able to recognize when those threshold guardians come in to test you, to see if you're going to turn back and try to go back. But you can't go back. That's the thing. There's no going back. There's, you can diverge, but really you can't go back. So expect to be tested. Expect to learn in opposition, right? If you want to learn love, you got to learn what indifference is, what hate is. If you want peace, you've got to learn what unrest is, from which you cultivate the willingness and the capacity to be peaceful. To access a willingness to show up, to live your destiny, you've got to expect that you will be tested with bouts of discouragement, of failure, of all the challenges that you need to go through so that you become stronger to hold the weight of your destiny, which is so large. I don't recall who said it, but the quote was essentially along the lines of, if you're not afraid of your dreams, then you're not dreaming big enough. I really resonated with these words when I first heard them because it reframed for me how fear is actually not necessarily a bad thing. Everything in excess for sure can be, but allowing fear to be a way shower, fear to be the next threshold guardian, which for sure will test me and challenge me, but it is a symbolic representation of me approaching the next level. And so actually, with different glasses on, I can see that that's a good thing and a sign that I'm on my path. So to wrap up what we've spoken about here today, we've touched on the definition of discouragement etymologically, essentially meaning away from spirit, away from the heart, a disconnection from the heart. And that disconnect from the heart creates an imbalance in your entire energy field, in your entire system, which makes it more difficult to bring ideas into reality, to manifest your destiny, to manifest your soul's purpose, and to live it. Because the heart is the seat of life force energy, which gives life to everything else in your system. We've spoken about how creative energy is life force energy, is healing energy, is sexual energy, and sexual energy being creative energy. And how the creator who created us wants us to create, as a lower down on the great fractal of all things, we are also like little mini God creators of our own reality. And so we all have the impulse and the urge to create. That's innately who we are. That's what we're here to do. And so in order to be steadfast, in order to attain the Holy Grail, being, for example, the qualities that we need to face the challenges and not back down, like we need the steadfastness, we need the inner resourcefulness, we need the persistence, we need the confidence, we need the courage, we need the willingness to learn those things. You've got to be tested and challenged. You've got to learn them somehow, right? They're not just going to be given to you. Otherwise, there's no adventure, there's no quest, and there's no point of a you or of a me. It would just be whole and complete in itself, done. No need to learn through differentiation or for the universe to experience a myriad of different things through these different portals and points of consciousness. So don't be disheartened, funnily enough, don't be disheartened or discouraged by the things that are testing your courage, that are testing your willingness. They are there for a reason. Welcome them as best as you can, primarily by being aware that they are there for you to learn the very things that you need in order to fulfill your destiny, in order to attain creative genius that is unique to you and in your lane and totally aligned with your destiny. This comes in time. So cool, all right, we can kind of rest into that, like no rush. And I'm not going to be avoidant. And I'm going to commit to being aware of when I notice the fears and reframe my position with them as, oh no, this is terrible, I need to back off, to, oh, fear's here. This must mean I'm approaching a new threshold, another level, and I need to address this in order to move forward. So thank you for being here. Thank you for showing me that I am moving forward along my path. We also spoke about how the path the journey itself is an animate being. It is an animate force, aka it is kind of like its own person. And so it's a thing. Yes, it's a verb, it's a doing, but it's also a being. And so value the personhood of the journey itself. Value what it has to teach you, how it feels, how it's growing as you grow. This beautiful symbiotic reciprocal relationship, so that you can value the journey itself rather than this end goal, which actually, when you really think about it, doesn't actually exist. What is the end goal? Is it a thing you can pick up? Is it a certificate? Is it the amount of money in your bank account, or the amount of friends that you have, or the house that you live, or the amount of cars that you drive, or how much love you feel in your heart? Like, for sure, that's a great thing. Applaud to that. We want more love in the heart. But what is this end goal? What is this thing? The bigger that it is, the bigger that we dream, the further we have to go. And so the more fulfilling our life is going to be. We're not just going to settle for, this is the trajectory of my life and I just want this. It's like, okay, well, why not stretch the possibilities? Why not set crazy, audacious goals? And so that Northern Star, you're going to be guided by it again and again and again for longer, which will fuel a long-term motivation, not looking for the instant gratification, quick fixes by this thing, this thing, this thing. You need, in the long term, the short-term goals as well, but don't settle for the short term. Like, throw the anchor far, far away and allow your path to be as long and as big and as adventurous as it can be, without trying to avoid the necessary challenges and barriers of resistance and obstacles that are inevitably going to be part of that journey, of the hero's journey, of the call to adventure, of this quest of moving from being discouraged to being willing, to resolving the affliction of the heart, and for all the energy centers to be healthy and vibrant and open, accepting and allowing for divine will, divine presence, the light of your soul to illuminate your entire life, and to be the light that illuminates the path forward in the dark woods. The dark woods are there to teach you that you become your own torch. You become the thing that guides you, rather than looking for the thing outside of you that will give you the validation or that tick of approval. You become that for yourself, for sure, with the guidance of people along the way. But ultimately, the key for being able to show up with courage, with willingness for whatever you're creating in this world, is recognizing that the relationship to yourself and to your heart and to your soul is the primordial force that is going to sustain you in that process. It's not going to be how many likes you get. It's not going to be how much you sell that painting for. It comes first from within, and then you birth the reality that you're wanting to create without. Yeah. I'll leave it at that. A friendly reminder that we have 11 more videos touching on and deepening into the various phases of the theme of moving from discouraged to willing. The next 3 videos are going to be held within the umbrella theme of showing up for yourself, right? The call to adventure and answering that call. The 4 videos after that are going to be more about how to be in the dark woods, how to face the mystery, the uncertainty, and how the art of self-inquiry and contemplating are going to really be your allies there. Then moving into the last 4 videos, where it's going to be about really resolving this discouragement and remembering reconciling with willingness. So really, power to you for showing up. Even more power to you if you do show up every week for these next 11 more weeks together. And remember, there's going to be the masterclasses at the end of the 4 weeks, aka 3 masterclasses in total. And at the very end, a grand masterclass, which you will get the 3 masterclasses in there for free, and the additional mini course that I will be piecing together. If you want an altar piece, stay tuned for the artwork at the end of this month, which will be a visual, magically imbued anchor for you. Don't underestimate that either. The subconscious mind speaks in symbol. If you watched the video about the universal language of symbol, this is the language of your subconscious primarily. And just another little piece to leave here with is that, don't underestimate the power of symbol. Don't underestimate the power of story, of animism, of treating this as an animate force. This is really important when we're overcoming internal discouragement, is we realize that we're part of a bigger story. And so our pains are the pains of many. We're not alone in this. This is key. And because if we bring our awareness to how myth and story can support us, we realize that we don't need to reinvent the wheel here. There are myths that take us through that journey of what it means to step into courage, right? So also let the symbolism, the essential lessons from that infuse within your system and layer this journey as you please. Your true essential self is always with you. Remember that too. And the work that we're doing is so that it's easier to peel back the layers so you can access what is already there. Not for you to acquire and grab and search for answers, but for you to remember the answers that you already have access to return to the sacred home of your soul, of your true self. And then that's where the answers reveal themselves to you, which requires you walking the path. The path reveals itself as you walk the path. A reminder that me showing up here, speaking to you now, is from my soul to your soul, an offering of support, knowing that I've walked this path, I'm walking this path, I've been like in the pit of discouragement. And so I've come out of that, and there are waves, there are cycles where I feel discouraged again. It's not, as I say a lot, there are no magic pill quick fixes, but really, this is a gift for you to be supported in you self-actualizing from discouragement into willingness through creativity, but beyond as well, ultimately to every area of your life. So may this serve you well, and I look forward for you embarking on this adventure with me. Stay tuned for the next video on Wednesday, and remember to check out Instagram in the meantime for posts that will be contextualizing this a little more. If you are down to join this journey with me, hit that subscribe button. You can click the notification bell so you'll get a notification when I post another video. And share this with your people, bring them with you and closer so that you can embark on this journey together. The moral support is going to be amazing and super beautiful to really build deep and real relationships, which will totally assist you in feeling held and supported and willing to show up with that accountability. So, lots of love to you, and I will see you next time.